Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive today.
Hi.
This one's about something that's impacting all of us, really, in a way we may not even realize.
Yeah, definitely.
We're going deep into the world of repair monopolies,
Okay.
focusing on how big companies like John Deere, are making it harder, more expensive to fix the things we own. Everything from tractors to phones to you name it, it's a really sign of the times, and not necessarily for the better.
It's interesting, isn't it, how these restrictions are affecting not just our wallets, but also our sense of ownership. We're shifting from a society that valued self-reliance and fixing things ourselves
Yeah,
to one where we're increasingly dependent on corporations
absolutely.
for even the simplest repairs.
We got some great reports and real-life stories to kind of illustrate how these companies are really implementing these practices. And you might think, well, I don't own a tractor, so this doesn't affect me.
Right.
But trust me, this goes way beyond farm equipment.
Absolutely.
It's a trend that's creeping into almost every aspect of our lives.
That's right. The strategies used by John Deere are being replicated across industries, from tech giants like Apple to even fast food chains like McDonald's.
Oh, wow.
It really begs the question, do we truly own the things we buy anymore?
Right. To kick things off, I think it'd be good to talk about Walter, a farmer from Montana.
Okay.
His story really illustrates this John Deere dilemma that we're talking about.
It's a prime example of how these restrictions create real hardship for everyday people. He relies on his tractor to make a living. When it breaks down, he's basically at the mercy of John Deere's policies.
So picture this. You're a farmer, it's harvest time, your livelihood's on the line,
Right.
and your tractor just suddenly stops working. That's exactly what happened to Walter. He had hay ready to bale, a tight window before the weather turned, and suddenly his tractor wouldn't start.
Farming is a time-sensitive business. Any delay can cost a farmer thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. The stress is immense.
And get this, John Deere wouldn't allow Walter or his local mechanic to even look at the problem, to diagnose it. They insisted he tow it, take it to an authorized dealership.
Oh, wow.
It's like they're holding his livelihood hostage, right?
Just like they are. John Deere uses software locks and parts pairing techniques to monopolize the repair process.
Okay.
It's nearly impossible for farmers to fix their own equipment or go to independent mechanics, forcing them into this authorized network.
And it turned out the problem was a simple sensor, a sensor that costs about $150.
Wow.
He could easily replace this himself if he had access to the software.
Yeah.
Instead, he waited a month for the repair and ended up with a bill for $5,000.
That's highway robbery.
It is. It's more than 30 times the cost of the part.
It's a classic case of companies prioritizing profits over the needs of their customers. John Deere's service revenue is actually growing at twice the rate of their equipment sales.
Really?
They're incentivized to make repairs expensive,
Interesting.
even if it means hurting the people who rely on their products.
It's a really unsettling trend.
Yeah.
It makes you think, what does it say about our economy when companies profit from making things difficult for their customers?
The John Deere situation is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not just tractors.
Right.
This is happening across a wide range of industries. Think about your smartphone. Have you ever tried to replace a cracked screen yourself?
Ugh, don't even get me started on that. Apple, with their little tiny screws and glued-in batteries, makes it impossible.
Exactly. They're pioneers in employing these anti-repair strategies.
Yeah.
It's all about controlling the repair market. These tactics are becoming more and more common,
Yeah.
from kitchen appliances to gaming consoles, you name it.
It's harder and harder to find something that doesn't have this kind of restriction on it.
That's right.
Yeah, it feels like we're so far away from the days when you could buy something and it was yours
Yeah.
to fix or even modify if you wanted to.
That's a key point. The very notion of ownership is being challenged in this digital age.
Yeah.
Companies are increasingly pushing the idea that we're only licensing their products, not owning them.
So it's like John Deere is actually arguing that farmers don't own their tractors. They only license them to operate them because of the software.
Yeah, and that's a dangerous precedent that extends far beyond just farm equipment.
Exactly.
Imagine applying that logic to your car or even your home appliances.
Yeah, are you telling me I don't own my car? I'm just licensing it from General Motors? What if I want to, customize it or even do my own repairs?
That's the slippery slope we're on.
Okay.
General Motors has stated publicly that the software in your vehicle is licensed to you, not sold,
Wow.
implying they retain some ownership
Wow.
throughout its lifespan.
That's crazy. So this is a huge shift from how we used to think about ownership.
Right.
In the past, we had something called the first sale doctrine, and it protected our right to resell, lend, or even modify things we buy. But now with software and digital content, companies are using something called digital rights management, or DRM, to kind of control how we use and access those purchases.
It's like a digital lock, isn't it?
It is.
That restricts our freedom to do what we want with the things we've paid for.
Right.
And this is how companies are controlling the repair market and just squeezing out more profits from consumers.
So how does this all connect back to John Deere and the farmers?
Well, John Deere uses this software argument to bypass that first sale doctrine that you talked about and control repairs. They say, because the software is licensed, not sold, we have the right to decide who can fix our tractors and how much it's going to cost.
This is obviously not just a John Deere issue.
No.
This is happening in so many industries.
Yeah, it's a sign that we're becoming more and more dependent on corporations for everything. Not just the products themselves, but the right to actually use them, repair them.
So it's about, like, consumer rights.
Yes.
And the future of what ownership even means in a digital age.
Exactly.
It's a trend that's worth watching.
Absolutely.
This John Deere story is just the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. It's a wake-up call for all of us to start thinking about this issue and how it affects us all.
The situation with John Deere is a reminder that we can't take the right to repair for granted. It's something that we need to actively protect.
Absolutely. Well, before we talk about, the legal battles and the whole right to repair movement, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about how this is affecting other industries.
Okay.
Let's look at cars
Great idea.
and the challenges faced by independent repair shops.
Yeah.
Like, there's this guy, Bob Lane, who owns a shop near Boston.
Okay.
His experience shows how car manufacturers are really squeezing out these small businesses.
It's another David versus Goliath story, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
Where these small businesses are struggling to compete with these huge corporations.
And as a result, consumers are losing choices, and we're all just becoming more reliant on this system that prioritizes profits over everything else.
Absolutely.
So Bob's got this fully equipped auto repair shop. He keeps running into these roadblocks because of the software in modern cars.
Yeah.
So to even diagnose a problem and reset, like a simple oil change light,
Wow.
he needs access to the manufacturer's data.
Okay.
And car manufacturers are really relying on this wireless data transmission that they control.
Right.
It's like they hold all the keys, and independent mechanics are totally locked out.
Yeah, and they're not giving those keys away for free.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Bob has to pay for these temporary software subscriptions just to diagnose a problem.
How much are we talking?
Hundreds of dollars sometimes for just 24 hours of access.
That's crazy.
It is, and these fees add up really quickly.
Yeah, so it's harder for independent shops to compete, and then they pass the cost on to the consumers.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why car repair bills have gone up almost 70% in the last 10 years.
It's not surprising, is it?
It's not. It's crazy.
Those data restrictions cost independent shops an estimated $3 billion every year. And we're losing these valuable experts and these community resources because of these monopolies.
Absolutely.
And it's not just the software.
Yeah.
Car companies are getting design patents on common parts now, things like bumpers and fenders.
Wow.
You can't even buy generic replacements anymore. They're forcing you to go back to the dealerships where they can charge whatever they want.
And it's already so expensive to fix your car.
Right.
This just feels like another way to just get more money out of us.
It's a perfect example of how these monopolies are getting rid of competition and just driving prices up for everyone.
And it's not just about the money either, is it?
No, it's not.
It's about having control over what we own.
Exactly.
It's about having choices.
Yeah.
And it really makes you question where we're going as a society.
The John Deere situation, the independent auto repair shops, it highlights this troubling trend. Corporate control is increasing in our lives.
Yeah.
It's not just impacting our wallets, it's our freedom of choice and even our sense of ownership.
It's a sign that something's wrong. We're losing control.
Absolutely.
And it affects everyone, not just farmers or car owners.
This trend has far-reaching consequences that go way beyond inconvenience or financial burden. We need to consider the human cost of this.
That's a good point.
Yeah, in the next part of our deep dive, we'll explore the impact of repair restrictions on things like vulnerable communities, healthcare, even the mental well-being of people like Walter.
Okay, I'm interested to hear more about this.
It's a side of this issue that doesn't get talked about enough, but it's crucial to understanding just how big of a problem this really is.
Okay, I'm ready when you are.
Let's do it. These repair monopolies, they're not just an economic inconvenience,
Right.
There's a real human cost to this, and it's not a good sign.
Yeah, I think we get so caught up in the financial side of things.
Right.
We forget about the people who are really being affected.
Yeah, and one of the most alarming examples is the impact on people with disabilities
Okay.
who rely on electric wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Imagine being stuck at home, can't go to work, can't go to school, can't even go to the grocery store
Yeah.
because your wheelchair is broken,
Right.
and the manufacturer won't let anyone but their authorized technicians fix it.
It's awful. I mean, these are people who already face so many challenges.
Right.
And you add this on top of it.
It's just another layer of hardship.
Exactly.
We've heard stories of people waiting months for repairs just because the manufacturer controls the parts and the software.
Wow.
It's just unacceptable
It is.
in a society that claims to value inclusivity and accessibility.
And it's not just individuals either.
No, it's not.
Hospitals are also having problems with delayed repairs on vital equipment.
Oh, wow.
Imagine having to postpone surgeries or delay critical care because a piece of equipment is malfunctioning. Right?
And the manufacturer won't provide the tools or parts for repair.
It's scary to think that someone's health could be at risk.
Yeah.
Maybe even lives lost because a company prioritizes profit over patient care.
It's a stark reminder that these monopolies have consequences. They go way beyond inconvenience or financial burden.
Right, and we can't forget about Walter, the farmer.
Yeah.
He talked about the stress that these repair restrictions are putting on farmers.
Right. They're already facing a mental health crisis.
Exactly.
It's a really demanding profession, long hours, unpredictable weather, fluctuating market prices, and then you add the burden of these repairs.
Right.
It's no wonder we've seen such a rise in suicide rates among farmers.
It's tragic. It shows the real human cost of these corporate policies.
Absolutely. These monopolies are just making things worse.
Right, adding more stress to an already difficult situation.
Yeah, it's clear that these restrictions are having a big impact on Americans from all walks of life.
It is, but the good news is that there's this movement, the right to repair movement,
Yes.
that's pushing back against these
And
practices.
it's a movement that's gaining a lot of momentum.
Absolutely.
It's fueled by a sense of fairness, I think,
Yeah.
and this desire for self-reliance and a recognition that we can't just let corporations control everything.
This right to repair movement, it really does offer a glimmer of hope in this whole situation.
Yeah, it's a grassroots effort, bringing together farmers, mechanics, disability rights advocates, everyday consumers.
Yeah, so many different people are affected by this.
Right.
It's a diverse coalition,
Yeah.
and they're united by this common goal of reclaiming our right to repair
That's right.
and pushing back against these corporate practices.
And they're making progress.
Really. That's great to hear.
They're using a multi-pronged approach.
Okay, what are the main strategies?
They're fighting in the courts, pushing for legislative change, and just empowering people with the knowledge and tools they need.
So it's legal action, it's policy change, it's grassroots organizing.
Exactly.
So let's break it down.
Okay.
Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been talking about the right to repair, and in this final part, we're going to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
We've seen all these problems,
Right.
but let's look at solutions. How are people fighting back and winning?
It's inspiring to see how, despite all these challenges, the movement's gaining traction
Yeah.
and making progress. There are so many victories that show what we can do when we work together.
I'm ready for some good news. What are some of these wins that give us hope?
Well, one of the biggest things has been the wave of right to repair laws being passed at the state level.
Okay, yeah.
We've talked about a few states, but it's spreading with new laws all the time.
Like a domino effect.
Exactly. And the specifics might vary, but the goal is the same.
Right. Empower consumers
Yeah, and level the playing field.
between the independent repair shops and the big guys.
That's right.
So how are these laws actually affecting people? Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. One of the most tangible impacts has been just the availability of information and parts.
Okay.
Many of these laws actually require manufacturers to provide independent shops with the same tools, the software, the parts they give to their own dealers.
So no more secrets or impossible to find parts.
Exactly. It breaks down those barriers.
Huge win for consumers.
It is. It gives people more choice, potentially lower prices, and you get to decide who you want to work with.
Right. It supports small businesses.
Yeah, and don't forget the environmental benefits.
Oh, yeah, of course.
When it's easier to repair things, people don't throw them away.
Less waste.
Less demand for new resources.
That's fantastic. It's a win for everyone.
It really is.
Do you have any stories about how this is affecting real people?
Oh, absolutely. There's this really heartwarming story out of Colorado.
Okay.
A young boy with muscular dystrophy, he relied on a specialized wheelchair and it broke down.
Oh, no.
The authorized repair shop, they quoted a long wait time,
Right.
expensive repair.
Of course.
But luckily, Colorado had just passed that right to repair law for wheelchairs.
Okay.
So the family was able to find an independent provider.
So they could fix it faster.
Yeah, and for less money.
That's amazing.
They found a local shop, got the wheelchair fixed within a few days. Wow.
And the boy was able to get back to his life.
That's what it's all about.
Exactly. It shows how the right to repair empowers people and helps create a more equitable society.
Absolutely.
It's about ensuring that everyone has access to the repairs they need.
These state-level wins are fantastic, but we need a national solution, don't we?
We do. A federal law would create consistent standards across the country.
So everyone has the same protections.
Exactly, no matter where they live.
What's the status of that? Are there any bills we should be watching?
There are a few, but the most comprehensive is the Fair Repair Act.
Okay, yeah.
It covers everything from smartphones to laptops to farm equipment.
I've heard of that one. It seems like it could really be a game changer.
It would establish a clear legal framework,
Right?
requiring manufacturers to provide access to the same information, tools, parts, everything.
And what about software locks?
The Fair Repair Act would prohibit manufacturers from using those to prevent repairs.
Wow, that's huge.
It is. It would be a major win for consumers. So what are the chances of this actually passing? I imagine there's a lot of opposition.
It's a tough fight. These companies have a lot of resources.
They'll do whatever it takes to protect their profits.
They're lobbying, spreading misinformation, trying to scare people.
Classic tactics.
They are, but more and more people are seeing through that.
So the movement is growing.
It is, and that gives me hope. When enough people demand change, politicians have to listen.
So what can our listeners do? How can they get involved?
First, get informed.
Okay.
There are great resources from groups like iFixit and the Repair Association. Learn about the issues, share it with your friends and family.
Spread the word.
Exactly. And once you're informed, contact your elected officials.
Right. Make your voice heard.
Every voice matters.
Yeah.
Support organizations like iFixit.
Okay.
They need donations and volunteers.
And what about just everyday actions?
Choose to repair your products whenever you can. Support local repair shops.
Reject the throwaway culture.
Exactly. Every little act makes a difference.
Well, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
We've seen how corporations are trying to control something that should be a basic right.
The right to fix our own thing.
Exactly. But we've also seen how people are fighting back.
And winning.
It's inspiring to see this movement grow.
It is.
It's a reminder that we can demand change.
Absolutely.
We can reclaim our right to repair, be more self-reliant, build a better future, one where technology works for us.
Not the other way around.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the right to repair movement.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you learned something and feel ready to make a difference.
Every act of repair counts.
We'll see you next time.